Welcome to Reality Tea Times 2, the podcast where we discuss all the trash reality TV we love to hate. I'm Tanika, and today we're going to be discussing episode 7 of Love is Blind. And again, Sharon is with me for this episode, so we'll jump into that in just a few moments. But usually we don't do anything on top of the episode, but I do want to do a few announcements, just so everyone's aware of what's going on. And this is the most recent one that I'm doing that I can do all of this on. So, number one, Before the 90 Days is coming. I know that it's very, very late at this point. We're jumping into a new season, but I am working on that, and I'm hoping to have that to you by, at this point, probably not until, say, maybe Monday. I'm hoping Monday, but it might be Tuesday. So there's that. Next, The Other Way and Last Resort. Obviously very late with that one, but because those are 2-hour shows, I'm going to combine them with this week's episodes. So you'll get both of those in one episode. So we'll do it that way. And what else do I have to tell you guys? Yes, so like I mentioned, we do have Married at First Sight coming October 18th. So we will be covering that. F-Boy Island is starting on October 16th. And by the looks of things, we're getting 2 episodes of that on October 16th. So you'll get that. So that's next week. So you'll get that next week. And then Family Chantel. I haven't talked about Family Chantel, but I know it's coming, and I know it looks absolutely incredible, and I'm excited for it. So I'm sure season we're on, season 5? Yeah, season 5, which is the final season. That's coming on November 6th. We're fucking covering it. I'm so excited. The trailer was incredible. So, yes, we will be covering that. So, that's pretty much it. I think that's all I needed to discuss. I'm going to be putting these dates in my calendar so that I can keep up. Because I keep forgetting what's what and what's coming when. And anyway, so we're going to have a busy week with that. So, because we're going to be having a busy week, and because I still have a day job that I have to also focus on, some things are probably going to be late. F-Boy Island might be 1 episode with 2 if that's how it's going to be done. This is what I can see. So, and then when it comes to Married at First Sight, we'll see, because I don't really care about the wedding dress and the suit shopping and all of that. I don't care about any of that. That's not why you're, and that's not why I watch. I want the drama. So we'll see how that's going to be set up. I might be skipping a week. We'll see though, but we'll see. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the announcements. We'll jump into Love is Blind with Sharon right now. Okay, so today we're going to be talking episode 7 of Love is Blind. And of course, I have Sharon here with me again. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, glad to be back.
So we're mainly going to talk episode 7, but we will talk a little bit about the big things that happened in episode 6 before we get into it. So Taylor and JP. Now, I talked a long time about Taylor and JP and how that turned out. I was very much, he is an asshole because of this whole makeup thing. And I'm curious, what do you think?
I feel like the whole makeup thing, it caught me by surprise.
Yeah.
I was like, where the heck is this coming from? Because it's not even something that he spoke about in the confessionals. Um,
Mm-mm.
but it's interesting because once like he made that comment and they were having that conversation, and I was like thinking back and I'm like, oh, it is interesting that, he did comment about her lashes during the meeting, like that little like first meet.
Mm,
And
yeah.
then he comments about like, oh, her face, like her freckles and stuff. But I was like, oh yeah, like, he's just like saying she's pretty. But then he's bringing up the fact that like, yeah, you're wearing, first of all, to even say to someone like I understand he was saying, oh, like, like people would like to hear that like you are beautiful without makeup. But it's the tone that this guy is saying this and what he's implying from that comment that is getting Taylor upset, rightfully so, which is that like
Exactly.
you're hideous with makeup, you're fake with makeup, and like you should just be bare face and like that's how I prefer you and that's how you always should be, is how he's coming across. And I'm like,
Basically.
JP, do you not see your sense of style? You, you weren't, Mr. Fashionista, like either. But she's totally fine with you only wearing red, white, and blue, you know?
That's the thing. Like that's kind of what I said too. It's like your only fashion sense is anything that's America. Like that's basically it.
Yeah.
You have none. And I also like said like, has there ever not been a time when you're with a woman and she has to wear makeup? Like it's impossible to me to think that you never been with a woman who doesn't at some point has had to put on makeup. Cause like again, I've mentioned not a huge makeup person. You know, I don't wear makeup like
Mm-hmm.
on a regular basis, but I have had to wear makeup at some point. And I'm sure there's a lot of women who maybe don't wear makeup on a regular basis, but have had to wear makeup. Have you never come across this, sir? And I also mentioned as well that, like, I wonder if this goes a lot deeper than his issue with makeup. And that this is more about, like, again, this is the same guy who talked about his mom, how she was horrible to his sisters in particular. And I wonder if this is kind of like he equates this to, well, my mom would wear makeup when she goes out and she becomes a different person than who she is when she's home. She's fake outside of the home, but she's quote unquote her real self in the home. And I wonder if like this goes so deep with his hatred for makeup and it has
Mm-hmm.
to do with his mom. Like I said, kind of like the Ed Kempers of the world who hate their mother and have to create this substitute for their mother. Now, I did say I went too dark with Kemper because it didn't just end with substitutes for his mother. And I don't know if you know the story about Kemper, but like that, like it goes a lot deeper with him. But that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of what I put it to. I'm like, you hate your mother
Mm-hmm.
and hate women who wear makeup. But I think just in general, I think he just hates women really and truly. That's how I felt. And
Yeah.
I, I said like, I need to revise my predictions because I was way off.
uh, you actually make a really good point with that though, because I completely forgot his background story. Um, and that could really be it because that could also be why he's like super awkward or super like quiet when it comes to like them talking, or he might just feel like that shift when the camera's around versus like when it's not around.
I
Um,
don't think he's quiet. I mean, I think he was quiet, yes, with her in that moment,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't think he's actually quiet. I think because he's uncomfortable, because God forbid she
Hmm.
wore makeup and he couldn't get himself out of that. I don't think he knows how to regulate his emotions.
But then like even when she was like even in like the whole like resort trip, he wasn't talking at all and she wasn't wearing makeup.
No, but I think he was just, his maturity level isn't there. So I think he is just so still in that moment of she wears a lot of makeup maybe she's not wearing makeup right now, but she's wearing a lot of makeup at that time. And he can't let that go. Kind of like he said, like, she can't let go that they had awkward moments. He can't
Hmm.
let go that she wore makeup that one time. And he
That's wild,
can't
bro.
regulate his emotions to kind of be like, okay, let me talk to her about this. Let me word this in such a way. And then for him to then say, like, oh, women would be so happy that I'm saying something like this. No, sir, you're not saying the right things.
Yeah. I was
You're
like,
not,
yo, he's so wild.
yeah, you're not saying, like you said in the beginning, you look beautiful with or without makeup. You're just saying you look like trash when you wear makeup. No one wants to hear that.
So much for Love is Blind.
And that's the other part I said. I'm like, you've completely ruined the experiment because this is supposed to be about not what someone looks like, but the connection you have. And you completely botched the experiment.
Yeah.
But so those are our thoughts on JP and Taylor. They're donezo, as was mentioned. But in my last episode, but we're kind of just going to go a little bit into episode 6 with Uche and Aaliyah, because that's kind of where we end off on that episode, and that carries into the 7th one. So, what are your thoughts here about them even meeting up to begin with? Because he was very fucking rude to her in the 5th episode about, I don't want to talk to her anymore. I'm done.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to her ever again.
Yeah.
But you guys are meeting up right now, so like, oh, what's going on here?
I mean, listen, emotions are heightened. It makes sense that I feel like we can't really be mad at him for being upset because Homegirl left. You know, like they both have their faults. Um, and so I like honestly like I'm glad that phone call happened, but like I was surprised it happened. I thought like we're just gonna have like a face to face rather than like just a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that's not the end. Like they were definitely gonna meet up. And I'm glad it happened.
Yeah, and I mean, even when it comes back to that phone conversation while they were still, like, while he was still in the pods,
Yeah.
I understood that he was angry and he was upset.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't agree with her dipping. I didn't, actually, because why, I don't know, but this is the person you wanted to be with.
Mm-hmm.
So why couldn't you just say to him, listen, I need to speak to him. You know, you may or may not know a proposal is going to happen right now, but I need to talk to him. I have this situation with Lydia. I just need to talk to him. You could have done that instead of basing it on the fact that Lydia said, no, fuck him. I don't want him.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, why did you make that comment to her in the first place? That's inappropriate.
Like she was trying to get I think she was like, I think she low key was still upset about the fact that Lydia shared so much information.
And that is okay.
That was like her like clap back.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Backfired.
Yeah, that's okay to be upset about it. I would be too. But then the grown up thing to do, I feel, is end that friendship and be done with it. Mm-hmm. So don't deal with it no more. Instead, you dipped on not only the friendship, but then this relationship you want to have with him. That's not the way to do things. I didn't agree with it. However, I do think she made the right decision in the end of the day, because this guy's asshole, in my opinion. Because it's not the fact that he's upset. I don't care. Be upset. That's fine. But it's what he says. You say to her, you had one more day. You know, you could have stayed one more day, or you left because of an argument you had with my ex. If you can't handle being with my ex, then like, how are we going to work? Motherfucker, what are you talking about? First of all, it's not just one day. You guys are going to see each other again, because that's how the show works.
Yeah, but she will have his support, and you're not just going to be alone with her.
I understand that, but yes, you would have that support. But at the same time, like, I mean, I've been in situations where it's like, even when you have that person's support, you still don't feel like you have that person's support. And really, truly, he's not supporting her. He's not supporting her. He's making it about him.
You never even gave him the opportunity to support her.
No,
I think he would have had her back for sure.
The consensus, again, I listen to all the podcasts that cover the show. The consensus across the board is this guy is a narcissist. Narcissists are incapable of thinking about anybody else but themselves. That's just how it is. So,
okay, listen. I think he had a good perception of like what this experiment is about. And like even like their one-on-one conversation where they had at dinner, um, you know, he brought up good points and she also brought up good points in which that they could both like work towards. Like I don't think they're like I don't think he's a terrible person. I don't think she's a terrible
mm-mm,
person.
mm,
Mm-mm, I don't okay, listen, we all know I give a lot of it. I do have uh, I know sometimes I could be wrong. I know sometimes you reality queens sometimes see it in a clearer vision than I do. However, I still feel like he's not a terrible person because a lot of the things he's saying, I'm like, yeah, this is valid. Yes, this is valid. And
yeah, but
like,
again, it's not about the fact that he's making valid points. I agree with you. He is at times
yeah,
making valid points, but it's how he delivers those valid points. And you
you
have to
like,
read in between the lines with narcissists. Listen,
mm,
I've luckily enough never dated a narcissist,
yeah,
but my best friend,
mm-hmm.
I think she has nothing but narcissists in her life, unfortunately. And the traits that I see with the people that she's had in her life versus this guy, they're the same.
And
They're
I think
100% the
there's a
same.
fine line. You know, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
invalidating your experience though, because you probably have more experience in figuring out the signs than I do, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a fine line, and I know, if, because like at one point, like if someone's like super vulnerable or like, you know, like is compassionate, some people are gonna be like, oh my God, it's so manipulative, just because like they don't like the person. I'm not saying that's you, but I'm just saying there is a fine line, and I just don't think the line has been breached yet in the current circumstances in which we are talking. However, I my opinion does change as we move along this podcast episode
Okay,
because of what
great.
happens later.
Great.
But
Thank God.
but based on right now what we know,
Mm-hmm.
I was still like, great points, beautiful. Um, not beautiful, but more so like I could understand your perception. And then I also understood her perception, but also thought like I was like, hey girl, yes, like when she said I had to make that selfish decision, I was like, that's very hard, good for you. However, in these circumstances, was it really like I think that it shouldn't have been a selfish decision because you're there for you're there with your other person that you're meant to love. And when you love someone like that, there has to be compromise. And I just feel like they don't know, they haven't reached a like a place where they know how to compromise. I think that's the issue.
And I think even if you are at a place, like even for me in my relationship, I've been with a person for how long now?
Yeah.
There are times, yes, where you need to compromise and think of the other. But then there
Mm-hmm.
are times where you should be selfish. And I made
Mm-hmm.
mistakes of that in my
Mm-hmm.
previous relationship
Yeah.
where I wasn't selfish. It was always he needs something. I would push aside what I needed
Mm-hmm.
for him. And that
Yeah.
wasn't great either. It's not the way to
No.
go. So there are points in time where you need to be selfish.
Yeah.
And I think,
So I'm glad she has that
yeah,
like that like acknowledgement. Like
yeah,
sometimes I gotta be selfish, sometimes there's compromise. I just think in that scenario, it was more of a compromise scenario than a selfish scenario.
yeah. And I do think, again, like, because for whatever reason, like I said, she's chosen this person.
Yeah.
And I think with that being said, is you can't punish him
Mm-hmm.
for what Lydia is saying.
Mm-hmm.
He has no control over what Lydia is saying here.
Yeah.
And so, like, for that reason, I'm like, you shouldn't be dipping. But again, for him to kind of be like, I think for me, the comment that he made in that moment of, if you can't handle being around my ex and you were probably never going to work, so that's the prerequisite. I have to be able to be around your ex. I think the
Yeah.
fuck not.
No,
So,
I agree. I think that line there was a I'm getting a bit blurred because love is blurry, as they
mm,
say. There was a line during that phone call where I was like, hey, that's calm down, you know? And I think it might have been that one, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Cause I'm like,
but,
wait, what?
you know,
And
you can't hold a person for being angry. Like there's so many times where I probably say things where
oh, we
like
all
maybe you shouldn't
do.
have. Yeah.
We all
It's just
do.
that they're
But
being watched.
just because this person is so, you can tell, very analytical,
Yeah.
lawyers tend to be very analytical because of
Yeah.
that. And he seems so calculated in the things that he has said up
Mm-hmm.
until this point.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't a slip of the tongue because he's mad. He knew exactly what he was doing while he was doing it, with saying what he was saying. He knew what
Mm-hmm.
he was saying. So I don't buy for a second that 1 minute you're very calculated, even when you're upset in what you say. And in this moment, you're no longer calculated because you're upset. I don't buy it. I think he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, I don't know though. I mean, yeah, yes, I like that 100%. That could be true. But then what are you gonna get from saying like, oh, you need to like you can't handle my ex, you can't handle the real world? Like, I think what he's implying is like it's not the particulars of like, oh, it's the ex, but it's like, okay, we take the ex out of the equation and we have something else that's tough to go through. Are you gonna do the exact same thing and run?
That's not what he said.
Oh, well, obviously he didn't say it in all those terms, but I think he's just implying that. Again, benefit of the doubt. Again, silly Sharon.
Mm,
I get it. I'm probably gonna eat my words in like the
no,
next episode. But
I I can't. You can't give people like him the benefit of the doubt. They don't. They're
maybe
not
maybe
allowed
I'm
to
just
have
trying to
it.
protect my fellow lawyer. You know, maybe it's just the lawyer connection.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
just
So are you trying to compare him to like, yes, the lawyers sure great. Are we trying to compare like him to you know who? Won't say his name. You're going to compare the two? Because I don't think he's a narcissist by any means, right? And they're both lawyers. I'm just saying.
yeah, I mean I know. Okay, listen, Tanika, listen. My opinion does change
Okay.
the more we talk about this episode.
Okay.
So yes, let's let's continue with this. Anyways, I guess how this conversation ended. Like, do you think that first of all, do you think that's actually how the conversation ended between Aaliyah and Uche?
I mean, that's how it looked like it ended.
Because I saw the reason why I'm asking is because like you know how the more they're having that conversation and she's again just bringing up why she left and then he's just like, you know, he makes a good point. You're separating the experiment uh like and us when it's like actually together and like they just see it a little bit differently. Um, but anyways, and then you know she was just like, oh, I do want to try, and then you know he was like, oh yeah, but you blocked me, you messaged me, you deleted, you blocked me. I have to wait 2 days. That also, I'm like, girl, you messy. But anyways, it's fine,
Yeah. That.
right?
And again, I want to put this out here too.
Mhm,
The the fact that she thought, let me leave the pods, but I
mhm.
still want to pursue his relationship with him.
Yeah,
What?
huh?
That I'm like, okay, but wait. You left the pods. If you wanted to continue to pursue the relationship with him, and this is the thing I had to agree with him on. He's like, but our relationship started in the pods. Our
Mhm,
relationship at that point was the pods,
mhm.
and you left. So I did have to agree with him on that. And I'm just like, if you wanted to pursue this, then you should have
Yeah,
stayed.
yeah.
It's like she wanted to have her cake and eat it too. And
Mhm.
that I didn't like that.
No.
And I'm like, and I'm watching her, I'm like, okay, you're all over the place.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
don't
she
clearly know
is.
what you want here.
No.
And then for her to do this back and forth thing, yes, of he gets like, I can't even get home before you are like friending me on Instagram. And then you are blocking me or you're sending me a voice note, but then deleting it before I can even
Mhm.
listen to it. He's
Mhm.
like, I literally just had to sit here and wait for 48 hours to be able to talk to you.
Yeah.
And that is, that is messy.
Mhm.
That's the definition of messy.
Oh my God, I'd be so embarrassed. if I was her and
I
he
would
just
be
like
too.
aired that to the public. I'm like,
Me too. But again, the thing is, it's like I don't like him, but at the same time, I'm like, but I get that. Like
yeah,
that's
yeah.
a little messy.
Um, but what I saw online, but I didn't fact check, so this could be entirely incorrect.
Hmm.
Because like, the editing world is so advanced, even for a layperson. And there was a Q&A, and like Uche was doing the Q&A on his Instagram, and then
Hmm.
someone asked like, "Oh, like why didn't you give Aaliyah a second chance or something?"
Hmm.
Um, and then he replied, "Has that whole uh like whatever he said at the end, like what we're not gonna get together, or I don't want to be, or this is the end of us, like I don't want to be with
Yeah,
you.
this is over. Yeah.
Yeah, this is over." Was a complete sound bite or something like that. Like it was like he never really said those words. And they actually ended that dinner or that lunch, brunch, whatever, uh, agreeing to give it a second shot. However, I did fact check to see whether his Instagram actually had that Q&A up. I just saw it on Twitter and then someone screenshotted it.
So he's trying
So
to say that someone like I know there's a term for that, like ghost clipping or whatever it's called.
yeah,
That's what he or phantom clipping. That's what he's saying is happening here. That doesn't
like
make
that.
any
Yeah,
sense.
like the editors did that.
And then that also, I mean, I know there's more to the meeting like with everybody, the whole cast. Um, why isn't Aaliyah there then? Why wasn't Aaliyah there? If you
Oh,
guys are back together, we
mhm.
see Johnny, we see Chris, which
I
we'll
mean,
get to
maybe,
that in a
yeah,
minute.
maybe,
But
maybe she wasn't there because she's like, I don't want to deal with Lydia right now. Like, it's just too soon.
maybe because
I'd respect that.
he does confront Lydia. So
Yeah.
maybe he does say, listen, let me go.
Mm-hmm.
You stay here.
Mm-hmm.
Let me confront Lydia without you
Mm-hmm.
being there. And let me talk to Milton or whatever. Let me do that. Let me deal with it because you've dealt
Yeah.
with enough. Let me deal with
Yeah.
it. Possible?
Yeah. Yes.
Possible.
See? I love this optimism of yours. Yes.
Listen,
See, he could be a good guy.
no, no.
Okay, well, I just fact checked to see if it's on his Instagram, and it is. The
Okay.
question was, why did you tell Aaliyah it was over? Was she not what you expected look wise?
Mm.
And then he wrote the quote, "It's over between us," end quote, is a post-production soundbite. At lunch, we both forgave each other. We held hands and shared our first kiss. Then we agreed to date outside of the show.
My question is then why didn't production just show that? Like
I
they
don't,
have
I don't,
are they gonna create like a cutie situation again? Like, but it's not gonna be nearly as good as that. Like, what's happening here? I'm confused as to why production wouldn't just show that.
um, who knows? Who knows? Maybe like there's like, maybe Aaliyah's like, fuck this show. I
Maybe.
don't want to be in it. Like, and then, they can't really show that they're together. I guess we'll have her and listen, after this episode, I'm so excited for the reunion because there's so many things
There's
that
so much.
questions left behind that I need them to do hopefully a great job this year to ask those questions that we don't necessarily have an answer to.
Here's like the other thing too
Mm-hmm.
that we didn't talk about.
Yes.
When Aaliyah made the comment of, I don't know what she saw when she was at your house those 3 months ago,
Oh, yeah.
and kind of making that assumption that is kind of our
Mm-hmm.
tinfoil hat theory over here is
Yeah.
that Lydia knew
Mm-hmm.
prior to um, the show that he was going to be there and that she went
Mm-hmm.
solely for him.
Yeah.
So his reaction
Mm-hmm.
to like kind of being like, hell no, that's not what happened, kind of reaction he had. And I said to myself, but why not? Why are you so quick to say, no, it's not? But then, kind of jumping ahead here,
Mm-hmm.
he's clearly in that tinfoil hat theory when he
Mm-hmm.
discusses it with Lydia. So maybe you are onto something. Maybe this is true, what he said, and that they
Yeah.
are together, and that
Yeah.
she was able to have that conversation with him off camera and say, listen, this is what
Yeah.
I think. Especially when we're kind of hearing, and I think he does tell Aaliyah this, so we'll get into it, all the different things that Lydia has done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, kind of how crazy she might be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, that this isn't too far off left field.
Yeah.
Field here. Like, come on.
Yeah. Because like there was comments that she was making that like Aaliyah points out and also what we see. And like one of the things Aaliyah pointed out as well during that theory during their little lunch was she when they first entered the pod and the experiment, she was like she kind of like implied like, oh, like I have a feeling like I'm gonna meet someone I know or see someone from my past or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay,
And
like
she did
girl.
that before she saw him or
Yeah.
spoke to him. And it's like, okay,
And then
how do you
also
know
for
that?
you, exactly. Like I'm girl, sis, sorry, I'm sure you don't have a third eye. Of all the people to give a third eye to, like you, I don't know.
You
Mm.
exactly.
And then And then for her, I still can't get over this, Tinka. How is my girl gonna be like, I heard his breath and I just knew it was him. Like,
Okay, that makes me so disgusted
like, like what? Like,
because
nah, sis. I'm sorry.
literally my mind goes to the, you know, the nasty,
Oh,
right?
oh.
And I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh, so you know how he sounds when he
Mhm.
breathes deep? Jesus
Damn,
Christ.
damn. But
So,
yeah,
I mean, again, even like I couldn't know my man's breath and,
no.
been with him for how long, and I wouldn't know his breath. There's a level of psychopathy with this girl if she
Hmm.
just knows his breath. Come on, come on,
Yeah.
come on. Like, so weird.
It's yeah. It's wild, man. But
So the
yeah.
part that we're gonna get into now is like the things that he says to Aaliyah, because he definitely told her this too. Because I remember thinking, okay, are you just saying these things to make Lydia look bad? But then later on, we won't get into it, but the man comes with receipts. So he says to Aaliyah, listen, there's some stuff about Lydia that I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to have a bad view on her because you guys were friends, but she's not exactly who she is showing herself to be. He says they got into arguments where she was lying about things. He, as we can see, he has an issue with people not being honest, and that kind of led them to breakups and bad places and stuff like that. So he said she was in bad moments when we were together. She lost someone close to her, had passed away. Okay, so that's lining up because Lydia said the same thing. Didn't say that someone passed away, but said that she was in a dark place.
Hmm.
And so that's lining up. And said, because of that, like they kind of got back together and he stayed with her. Maybe even though he maybe didn't want to stay with her. So again, you're a fucking martyr, apparently. And stayed with her during that until she got back up on her feet. But then that's when we find out she was stalking other people's stories who she
Hmm.
thought was connected with him. Those women were coming to him saying, do you know this person? And then I guess showing screenshots of her viewing the stories. And he says, like, that's what she was doing. She was also coming by my house, taking a picture of my house, sending it to me, and saying, I see you. So you're thinking, oh my God, is this girl a stalker? Either that or he's just trying to paint this a
Hmm.
picture of her. So you're listening to this and I'm thinking, oh shit, I don't know what to think. What were you thinking at this point? Only at this point. We can't go further. What were you thinking at this point when he's telling her all of this?
So when he was saying this, I was like, like I was taking it all in. Um, and even though, I feel I can't even answer without like going back to that whole like conversation that he has with Lydia after. But
Hmm.
initially, I was like, oh my God, like this is a bit too much. Like I feel like there's no way that Lydia's psych evaluation came out clear for this show if
But
all he's saying is correct.
yeah,
So I mean, I honestly took it with a grain of salt because I'm like, okay, like I did believe like 90% of it, and then now I only believe 60% of it.
like after this conversation with Lydia,
Yes,
okay, we'll get there. But
yes,
to piggyback onto your thing where you said like, there's no way she would pass the psych eval if this was true.
mm-hmm.
We have to remember of all of the crazy people, and again, I've listened to plenty of true crime stuff. And again,
Yeah.
I go dark, but that's
Oh
where I'm
yeah.
going. But when we see like, I'm going to use Jeffrey Dahmer for example, because that's the one that's in my mind right now.
Mm-hmm.
He had plenty of issues prior to his arrest, the final arrest that, got him killed in prison, um, where he had to do psych evals, right? He had to do those and he passed them with
Mm-hmm.
flying colors. How the fuck? Nobody knows because this guy's fucking crazy, right? Because they know how to manipulate the system. They know how to manipulate people, charm people. That's narcissism. So
Yeah, but you're telling me that they're just gonna make the same 10 mistakes
they
over and
always,
over
they
again?
always did. They always did. I can think of plenty of people where this Ed Kemper, I brought him up earlier.
Yeah,
Same
but
thing,
this was like
has
back
psychophile.
then.
Doesn't matter. I
Ed
know we
Kemper was like
know.
in the beginning of
I know, but we
even learning
are.
about it.
But okay, so Jeffrey Dahmer, that was late 80s into the 90s. That's not that long ago if you think about
Listen,
it.
I need to see this psych evaluation sheet because at this point I feel like it's like an assignment that they give undergrad students to complete because you're missing all the key signs.
I agree. I agree. But we don't know again who these people are hiring. Because again, when I think of the fact like this show is connected with Married at First Sight, and we have like the quote unquote experts on there, which I hate quote unquote, but they're experts to some extent. They miss red flags all the fucking time. Yeah, I don't know if you watch Married at First Sight, but
I
they
don't.
they it's the same idea. If you like this show, you probably would like that too.
Mm-hmm.
But they miss shit all the time. You've had people come on here. The reason we have Trash Man on this podcast at all between me and Ava, why that like has become a thing, is because well, you had a guy coming on here saying, "Well, I'm all about the ass and I want the sex to be good," and you thought he was a good candidate for marriage. Okay, cool. So we're with Stacy and Izzy, and they're gonna go look at his apartment now. Now it's his turn, and she's a little afraid. She's not sure what she's going to expect. But we walk in. First, we see the kitchen look nice and clean. This looks very clean, very spotless. He's not messy. I feel like a lot of men aren't really messy, even though we want to think they are. But, maybe somewhere underneath there's some nastiness. We'll see. But go into the bedroom and she notices like he doesn't have any nightstands. He says he didn't really want them. And she's like, well, like if you have particular guests coming over, they might want to see a nightstand where they can put like their earrings or something on. And he's like, well, I never had any complaints. And he says that they would kind of put them over, I guess, on a dresser. And he says, sometimes they might forget their stuff. And I have like a lost and found drawer.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, what? So go into the bathroom. And there he has a lost and found drawer right beside the condoms. And she's like, why do you have this? And she's like, very on the fact of why does he still have these things? Why hasn't he thrown them out? So we'll get to that in a minute, kind of the thoughts on there. But then we go back into the kitchen, open the cupboard, and he has plastic dishes. So she's like, well, why do you have plastic dishes? Why don't you have like glassware? And she's like, or silverware, I should say. But then she's like, what if you have someone coming over and you cook for them? Like, you give it to them on plastic plates? He says yes.
Yeah.
So I'll let you go first because he gets very upset on all of
Yes.
this.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on all of it?
Okay, on all of it. So at first glance, I honestly, maybe because I just like didn't really care about it, but I didn't see, I was like, oh yeah, okay, it is really nice, clean spot. I was like, okay, this is his place. It looks like it's barely lived in, which is like fine. Like
Mm-hmm.
some people live like that. Um, the the lost and found thing, it definitely rubbed her the wrong way. And she was like, first acting like she was like okay with it, but then it wasn't until later that it came out that like, no, that like really pissed her off.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then his thing is like, oh, I just want to show you how exactly I lived before you. Like I didn't want to like throw anything away or like hide a portion. Like this is just like all of me of who I was. And I could see his reasoning and it just didn't work in his favor, which is like fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw his point, and then the plastic plates though, that I'm like, dude, it's not that hard to buy one or two plates and then just like wash it and put it away. Like, how's your whole house clean, but you have disposable glassware,
Yeah.
uh, and utensils? Like, that is so absurd. And so, another Twitter theory
Okay.
is that it's an Airbnb. And because for some reason, a lot of people think Izzy is like not as financially uh I don't know, stable as he comes across. Like, I guess because there's so many questions about like his work, his finances, like it's really like he's very vague about it all.
Mm-hmm.
That people are just like, yo, we really don't think he owns this place. Like it's just so random. Like he randomly doesn't have nightstands. I'm like, Airbnb should put nightstands. He has like these weird decorations up. It's like who came and randomly put a splash of like Hallmark decor, and then no plates to wash, like just completely disposable plates. Like the theory is it's an Airbnb. But anyways, outside of that theory,
So for me,
yeah.
with the lost and found thing,
Mm-hmm.
everyone
Did you?
has a past.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I didn't see an issue with it. I did
Mm-hmm.
understand from her perspective, like, clearly these, like, if you're keeping this lost and found drawer,
Yeah.
you're clearly thinking that someone's going to be coming back to retrieve that, because that's the whole point of a lost and found anything.
Yeah. I mean,
So
what if a homegirl does text and be like, did I leave my
that's
earrings there?
true. That's true. And that's the thing. It's like, oh, I think I left my stuff there. But at the same time, I feel like if someone is leaving an earring behind or whatever, they're going to be like, I'll just take the L on that. They're probably fake earrings anyway, because
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if I'm leaving behind my real gold or my real silver earrings, I'm going to go back and get that. But they're probably fake. They're probably like, it's
Yeah.
fine. I'll just go back to Ardeen or whatever and buy something else,
Yeah.
whatever.
Amazon.
So, but so I did understand from her perspective of why I keep them,
Mm-hmm.
but I also understood from his perspective of I'm just trying to show you how I lived,
Yeah.
and I lived like a bachelor. I
Mm-hmm.
had sex with maybe randoms or whatever, or had, a few people that I had sex with regularly or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't care. I wouldn't care about that. Like I said, I have heard stories from my man that I
Mm-hmm.
laugh about because I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
it was before me. I don't care.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, how are you going to complain about how are you not going to complain about his experience in bed with you,
oh,
but
I
then you're going to
don't.
complain? No, like, and yeah, and I'm sure Stacy doesn't either. And then how are you going to complain about where it comes from?
Exactly. Because that's the thing. It's because of those experiences that you had with
Mm-hmm.
random people
Yeah.
or people, whatever, that makes you who you are today in the bedroom.
Right.
And I mean, I'm fucking happy with my sex life. So I'm not going to complain about that. And I
Yeah.
think Stacey is also because she's kind of made these, they're having like
Hmm.
these sexual innuendos with each other. And
Hmm.
like, I think she's enjoying the sex with him. So
Yeah.
don't complain about it. Don't complain where he came from, the journey that led him
Yeah.
to where he is. And then when it comes to, um, actually, I want to make one more quick point. For
Hmm.
those people who watch 90 Day Fiance, there are a limit with their journey. And I'm talking about, you don't watch the show, but there is a guy on there named Sarper, for those who listen and watch, who's had sex with 2,500 women.
Oh my
So
gosh.
there is a limit to your journey. And
Yeah,
it was long before 2,500 women.
I
So,
agree.
but
And yeah, in
yes,
terms of like these two people, um, I just didn't understand how she had like how her complaint. I guess I just don't know what she was necessarily complaining about because how are you gonna have more of an issue with the lost and found than like him just not having, but like not having plates or glasses, you know,
yeah,
like, and
that's
then
true.
on
Which
top
I
of
had
it,
more an issue with as well.
yeah,
Like, I feel like you're a grown ass man.
yeah,
If you can't afford like the top end things,
hmm,
fine. Then go to like the dollar store or something and you can pick stuff up there. They're perfectly fine.
yeah, half my plates
And
came from dollar store.
yeah, I mean, I'm in the process of buying things for when I'm ready to move out too. I got most of my shit at dollar store
Yeah,
and spent like, let's say under $60 for whatever I got there.
and all he needs is like two.
And that's the thing, because you're one person,
Hmm.
you're not living with anybody. You might have someone coming over once in a while who you're gonna cook for, and then,
Yeah,
whatever, have sex with later, who cares? You maybe only need the two. Fine.
yeah,
So
and if it's more than two, then by all means bring out the disposables.
yeah, but like again, I feel like at minimum, especially if you're gonna maybe have people over, I'd say four. At minimum have four. If you're a single person living with somebody else. Just
Yeah,
to be, because I don't think you should be coming out with plastic everything. You're spending more money in the long run on the plastic stuff than just buying stuff that you can just wash and reuse.
maybe he eats out a lot.
Maybe. And then
Yeah.
for your theory on
Hmm.
on Twitter about the Airbnb,
Yeah.
we've seen it before.
Did
Definitely
you?
seen it. No, not on this show in particular, but they're
Oh.
going back to 90 Day. There was a woman who um who lived, I can't remember where she lived now, but it was not in America. And the guy came to her and she claimed to live on her own. No, she didn't. She clearly lived with her parents. And she made this Airbnb look like it was her home. But when you walked into the home, forget the plastic dishes. There was like literal bunk beds in the home. And it's like she didn't have kids. She claimed they were for roommates or whatever, but like why they're bunk beds? Those are for kids 9 times out of 10. So I was like, clearly this was an Airbnb. So we've seen it before. We've seen people try to make a home look like an Airbnb, like an Airbnb look like it's their home, even though it's not.
Hmm.
Also saw it on a recent season of 90 Day UK where clearly that was an Airbnb, was not their home. And it's like we've seen it. But I still, like you said, don't understand why there's not a nightstand in there, because I feel like there would be. Um, and I also still don't understand why there'd be plasticware and not
Yeah.
just actual dishes in the Airbnb either. I think this is
Hmm.
legitimately his home and he lives like a bachelor, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I see that as a more reasonable theory than the whole bachelor, not bachelor, sorry, Airbnb one because I don't know. I feel like you could call that out so quickly. Like, can't you just search up to see if you find a similar Airbnb out there right now? Like, I don't know. There's not enough evidence for me to believe that theory.
Yeah. I mean, I think anything's possible, but I don't know. I don't know. I think he just, I think he's still a man trying to figure out his life.
Yeah.
And and again, like I think she like him making the comment of you're being materialistic because she said like she would care if she was on a first date with him and he served her with plasticware instead of actual dishware. And I'm just like, I hear what he's saying. I think there are some things about her that can become an issue here, but I also would care. I don't know if I would completely say no to you,
Mm-hmm.
but I think I would say, we're going to go and buy some dishware because you are a grown ass man
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to do that. I would try to better you. I'm not going to just say no to it. If you're if you're receptive, perfect. If you're not, then I might be like, okay, then cool. Then bye. But I don't know. I don't know. I still don't think these two are going to work.
I I feel like in the like the more we are seeing them interact with one another, like possibly the whole like, are you going to meet my standards is gonna come in the way with for Izzy, you know.
I think
Um,
so too.
and it's just whether or not he's able to move past that or to reach that or to feel like it's kind of like overbearing and he can't handle it. Like I think it's gonna surround that.
And I think that when she keeps saying to him, like, my family was really hard for things.
Mm-hmm.
And yet she's not understanding or maybe being patient with the fact that he too is trying to better himself. And
Mm-hmm.
she kind of just expects all of these things all at once. Um,
Yeah.
Again, she kind of reminds me of Chelsea from season 4.
Mm-hmm.
I put those parallels to them pretty early on, but again, kind of like with Chelsea, I liked you in the beginning, and then there's some things I'm starting to dislike as we go along.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not at the point where I'm like writing her off, but I don't know, like, I don't want to go as far as say she's materialistic, but
Mm-hmm.
clearly there's something going on here.
I mean, yeah, for sure. Like she says, like I could appreciate that she worked really hard to get where she is, and then to also like um to treat herself or to live the standard she now lives because of the hardworking gene she has in her body. Because obviously, when we meet her family later on, we also see um how they have that too. But then there is also like that privilege of getting it from a generation before you and having
Mm-hmm.
that generation support you to get to where you need to go.
Yeah.
Cause she even talks about like, okay, if we can't afford that like $20,000 to fix this HVAC issue, then it goes down to my dad, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, we have no idea what Izzy's situation is because again, he's very vague, but,
It's vague
um,
for sure, but I mean, I think like the average person, like the
mhm,
HVAC situation, yes, if that needs to be fixed, it
yeah,
needs to be fixed. Like there's nothing you can do about it.
mhm,
But like kind of going ahead here, but when they go to meet her family, how easy they just drop, oh yeah, we were in Paris. The
oh yeah,
like, okay. And he kind of clocked that and he's like, oh, where were you? Oh, we were in Paris. That's like the average person can't afford to go to Paris.
mhm,
And they're kind of like shocked by the fact, like, oh, you just got your passport.
oh
Like,
yeah, I
but
know,
I couldn't afford to go anywhere else, to go anywhere. So what was the point of me getting a passport?
mhm,
It's that like not everyone's life turns out the same way. You're fortunate that yours turned out the way it did. But
yeah,
that's not his life. He's now just trying to get into insurance. and do that, which great. And if he can do well in that and level himself up, he can do really well in that. I mean, financially, but it's just like, it was just that judgment, that kind of underhanded judgment of, oh, you just got your passport. Like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
not everyone's paths are the same. And the fact that she wants to travel a lot and she wants to be able to do that, I don't know if these two are going to work.
Yeah.
Because I think, like, we've seen before, obviously, with Chelsea and Kwame, he wanted to travel all the time, blah, blah, blah. Whether or not he could afford it is neither here nor there, but he wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing, like, they compromise and I guess more so sacrifice that need that he needed, but they were able to do that. I don't know if these are going to be able to do that because I don't think even Chelsea had that same type of privilege, or Kwame had the same type of privilege that
Mm-hmm.
Stacey has.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they can look past that.
Yeah,
I
that's
guess we'll
true.
see.
Mm-hmm. We will.
But I mean, since we're kind of talking about that already, I don't really have much else to say about that
Mm-hmm.
conversation that they have with her family. You know, dad does talk to him outside of that and says, like, you know, she does expect the finer things in life and all of that. The one thing that I will say, though, that I'm not sure how this came about, but he does make the comment, her father makes a comment of, um, you know, she wants to be able to have like nice meals. Going Dutch isn't going to be like, it's not going to work for her. And I'm like, did she tell her dad that? That was my thing. I'm like, it was really weird to use that um, as an example of what your daughter needs
Mm-hmm.
after they had that argument about going Dutch on restaurants and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I found that interesting. And I'm like, why are you having that conversation with your dad before he's even able to actually meet your dad?
I mean, I could definitely see her putting it in the group chat. LOL, he just said he wants to go 50-50 on dinner.
And that's the thing. I wonder if, like, I don't know if, like, she may have told her dad because actually that made me think she could have told her sisters and the sisters
Mm-hmm.
could have told the dad. And that's how it
Yeah.
got to him. But I
Mm-hmm.
also could see, like, she could have just told him as well. And I'm just like, that's unfair of you to do when he hasn't even met him yet.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't personally, I don't see an issue with going Dutch on some things, or you pay one time and I pay another time. We're equal. We're a team. We're in this together. I don't understand why the man has to be the one to pay for everything. Like, I'm not saying I'm a feminist by any means. I'm not. Like, obviously, I want my rights as a woman, absolutely, but I'm not like in deep on that where it's like, oh, I can be equal. I can pay for myself. Like, I'm not like that. But I also don't think like the man needs to pay for everything. And I can tell
Mm-hmm.
like that's not what he wants, but that's what she wants.
I
They're
think that's what she's used to. I mean, she seemed fine with like it, like the man not paying for everything,
but not when
except
it
I
came to
think,
dinners.
yeah. And I do see like I can see like sometimes you pay, sometimes they pay. Like I see
Mm,
that. Like that makes more sense rather than like actually
going Dutch,
splitting
yeah.
a
No,
bill.
no, but no, no, absolutely not going Dutch. No. But that's not what she wants. She doesn't want
Yeah.
to me pay sometimes and you pay another time. She doesn't want that. She wants it to pay 100% on restaurants. And I think because like, yes, to kind of go on to, she's used to that.
Mm-hmm.
He does mention later that she's dated guys 10 years older than her who maybe are able to pay for that, or um, in a different, you know, generation where maybe that's something you just do.
Yeah.
And that's not him.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, but I don't have anything else to really mention about the meeting with her family. Do you have anything else you want to mention about?
No.
No? Okay. we also do see Milton is meeting Lydia's brother and mom. I don't have
Oh,
much to really
yes.
say here either, really,
Mm-hmm.
except for her brother is gold and he clearly hates her
Oh my God,
because
I didn't even like I didn't clock that.
because you know every time he had a moment to dig at her, he took
Yeah.
it because she's like kind of saying, "Oh, I'm passionate and this and that. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm outspoken and stuff like that." And her brother's like, "Because she's loud." Like
That's
point
so
blank
funny.
because she's loud. Like he
I
doesn't
thought
have
he was
these
just being like a
moments.
sassy bro.
No, he's definitely being sassy for 100%. But I
Mm-hmm.
was just like so funny. I'm like, I like her brother for sure.
Mm.
But yeah, there's really not much else to really say here except for mom accepts Milton. Brother says, you know, you're a part of our family.
Yeah.
No, no return policy and stuff like that. Like they seem to really connect really well, which is great because it looks like it's not going to go good for Milton's family and her
Oh yeah.
leaving. But yeah, like I don't, I need more drama for me to talk about it. So I don't know if you
I mean, how do you
have,
feel about Milton? Like I'm still very confused about him.
um, I think he thinks he's ready, but he's not ready.
Mm-hmm.
I think he wants to have a marriage, but I think he's just not ready for it right now. I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't think he's doing this to be, you know, underhanded or anything like that. I think he just truly thinks he's ready for this, and he is not ready for this. I think Uche was 100%. I think it was Uche who said it was 100% correct. This guy is not ready for this.
Mm-hmm.
I 100% agreed with him and believed him that he said he's not ready for this.
Yeah.
He's not ready. I don't know if he kind of was more saying he's not ready for marriage at all, because that's how I interpreted it. But Ali was like, you know, you're so concerned about him being with Lydia. That's not what he said. He said he's not ready for marriage in general.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with Lydia.
Yeah.
So that's what I think. Like, yeah, I know you say like you're so unsure about him, but
Yeah. Because
I
like
don't know.
sometimes like he presents himself and I could see like, okay, like I don't know, I could see like he might be ready or he knows what he wants or he seems to acknowledge or understand his like his emotions, how to be vulnerable, to be a critical thinker, so on, so on, so on. But then there's like parts of him and then his like goofy side comes out and I'm like, you know, and then he like kind of like Lydia was saying, like he evades certain like he becomes goofy or he becomes he becomes goofy, he becomes like funny or playful when he wants to now like push aside vulnerable conversations or like kind of like get more comfortable with saying vulnerable conversations or something like that. And then I'm like, oh, is that the best thing to do sometimes? Like, I don't know how to gauge that part of him yet. Um, I don't know. I
I
just
mean,
think I just don't like him and Lydia together.
yeah, I think that's part of it. And I think like he needs to dodge a bullet, and he's
Yeah.
not dodging them. He's too
Oh,
tall. He
oh
can't
yeah.
dodge the bullets.
He's yeah. Line of fire.
I mean, yeah, I think just generally speaking, he is not ready for marriage. And I think just to even make that even more so, he's not ready for Lydia. He's not, I don't know if anyone's really ready for a woman like Lydia. And I don't just mean, forget that she's loud, forget all that. I don't care about any of that. That's who she is as a person. I'm, so that's neither here nor there. And no one should be judging her for that.
Hmm.
But it's everything else. I think that's the problem. And I think in my mind, I kind of started to wonder, this is what she's telling herself that men are saying about her when they leave her. But
Hmm.
I don't think that's the truth, because
Hmm.
not once did Uche said, she's just too loud. And I didn't want to deal with it. It's not what he said.
Yeah.
He said there are things that happen, things that made me come to that point.
Yeah.
So it's funny because it's like you say these things. We have one of your exes right here saying none of those things are the reason why he ended it with you.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. But maybe we'll have more to say in the coming episodes.
Maybe.
Yeah. I feel like shit's about to hit the fence with that relationship.
I think so too. I think so too. All right. So I'm just trying to find where I'm at right now. Where we're at. Okay, so yeah, now we're at the meetup. The pod squad is coming and meeting up with everybody now. So, I mean, we see a bunch of people we don't really recognize, obviously. And I wrote down there is this one fucking guy who's sitting down and talking to, I think it was Milton, about what happened with Taylor and JP. And this fucking guy literally says, well, I think Taylor screwed up here. I think she, if I had a daughter, I'd want them to be with someone
Oh,
like JP.
yeah.
I think Taylor didn't give him a chance. And I said, motherfucker, stay in your lane.
Mm-hmm.
That's you want someone to be with someone like that guy who tells them they look like atrocious with makeup on. That's what you want to tell your daughters. That okay. And then Huxley makes a comment of like he's Captain America. No, he is not. Chris Evans is. Stop it. Like, I was so over it. I'm like, this, who the fuck are you? Because I never saw you, sir. And you're just trying to get your 15 minutes of fame by being an absolute asshole. But anyway,
Yeah,
struggling with
I
my
agree.
notepad. Um, so anyway, then we see Johnny is
Oh,
coming to just fuck some shit up. We have updates on Johnny in a minute.
mm.
For those who didn't see the episode. But trying to find my spot here. Where'd I go? Where'd I go? Yeah, so Stacy says that she thinks that Johnny is a joke. And she kind of says, like, when I was in there, me and her got along really well. But then when I figured out first they were talking to the same guy, things were still kind of okay. But then when he ended things with her, obviously continue things with me, she started talking shit about me to other people. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's true. That definitely happened. We saw it
Yeah.
happen. But again, I think we need to maybe give her a little grace here because it's like she was a little hurt here. Obviously, she thought he was it, and he just didn't think the same, you know. But
I have
anyway,
no grace for her.
I have no grace for her in general, but women are mean or catty.
Yeah.
And, if you're not act like a mature person, that's what's going to happen. You're going to talk shit. So I think I'm not surprised. I don't know why Stacy was kind of surprised by it, I guess, and wants to give any energy to it.
Yeah.
I think that's more what I'm saying. I'm just like, you are surprised by it because I'm not. Anyway, then we see Chris. He's here. And we find out that my guy did some black backsliding and him and Johnny are officially together.
Yeah.
They, or she tells us that they met each other in the airport and one thing led to another and they're together. He met
Yeah.
her mother and yeah,
He's like the best thing ever. And she's just
now he is
complimenting him like over and over again just to compensate for how she
crying,
treated him in the
crying about
pods.
it.
Ugh,
Like,
it's
and the thing that got me was when she started crying. She's like, he's such a nice person. And
yeah.
I almost didn't happen. And I'm like, Bitch, shut up.
You know
You.
why? You know why I like she's like saying all this and like I'm literally like looking the other way because I think it was in a preview and like obviously I don't know if it's true or not, but we'll see. In a preview where like I think is this like she's still coming up to me to tell me she loves me or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
And so with that preview in my head, and I'm like anticipating that happening, it's just making Johnny just worse if it's true. I don't know. It might be allegedly. It might happen. It might not. But either way, Chris deserves better because I understand the experiment and the pause. I understand no one's technically second best, but she really, really digged a hole and she kept digging. She kept digging. I'm like, a lot of people have different perspectives of like Johnny and the pods and, you know, she never really like talked shit about Chris. So they say, or she never really talked bad, but it could be interpreted badly. And I interpreted badly. That's why I
She
have a,
didn't talk badly about Chris as a person. She never once did that, which is great.
yeah.
But she was more trying to, I think, unfortunately for her, she's the kind of person that's like, let me be what I think this person needs me to be. She's not her own person. And I kind of, again, I think we talked about this actually a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
She's the Micah of this season because I felt the same way about Micah, except Micah was a little bit more problematic, I think, than Johnny is
Mm-hmm.
because she wasn't necessarily being mean to people to just get shits and giggles out of people, out of for herself and Irina. But I think she's the kind of person that's like, let me become what I think they need me to be because I felt the same way with Micah.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, well, Izzy needs me to say that I'm kind of always going for the safe choice and I don't want to go for the safe choice anymore.
Yeah.
But that didn't work with Izzy. So then let me go to Chris and I'm going to tell Chris that I'm always going for people who are just emotionally unavailable. When I
Yeah.
never once thought Izzy was emotionally unavailable, I think he just picked the person that he thought he can make it
Yeah.
work with.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he's emotionally unavailable. That just means he's not for you.
Yeah.
And you're not for him. That's it.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. Like, there's people who are saying also like she might just like losing Izzy made her and then having that little final conversation with Izzy and how he wasn't receptive to what she was saying about like loving only being in love with one person in her life and that wasn't the man she married. It was like her ex before that.
mm-hmm.
And then anyways, and then that made her realize like, oh my God, I just lost a guy who was like so receptive and so understanding, um, such and such. But it's just the way she talks about Chris that it just didn't sit right with me. Like, yeah, she never really said anything bad about him
Mm-hmm.
to say like she talked shit, but
Mm-hmm.
it was just the way she was like degrading or like devaluing
He said it
Chris.
was boring.
Yeah, like, excuse me?
And
But now I'm like the greatest thing on earth.
I think the problem is, and it's funny because I actually had a conversation like this with my friend Mikkel, who again, people who listen to the podcast, obviously, you people that listen right now know that I have another podcast with him actually. And I we had a conversation about this, not on the podcast, but we had a conversation separate from this, where
Mm-hmm.
he's like, why do women constantly need to be with a bad boy?
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, I said, listen, we all women go through a phase where they want a bad boy. And I think ultimately we don't want to fuck a nice guy. That's basically what it comes down to. We just don't. We want a nice guy in the streets, but we want a fuck boy in the bed. Like that's basically what it comes down to. And I think you need to find that common place. The problem is that some women never find that common place. And I think Johnny is the kind of woman who wants a fuck boy and she thinks Izzy's a fuck boy
Mm-hmm.
and can probably fuck better than um
Yeah.
Chris does.
Chris. Yeah.
And I think she's now realizing like maybe I could have fucked this up royally. I have this nice guy. Fuck,
Mhm.
maybe we don't know. Maybe he does fuck good. We don't know. And that's
Yeah.
what my friend was saying too. He's like, nice guys fuck well too. And I'm like, okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Um, Not in my experience, but anyway. But that's the thing. It was like, I think that's the thing. And I think she's like, she wanted that bad boy, but that's not this experiment. You can't, you're not going to fall in love with a fuckboy. Then Johnny and Izzy, they talk and
Barely.
oof. And let me just have my notes here. I've been doing a lot of this without my notes actually. Um, so he basically says that he's happy with Stacey. He's happy with the choice that he made. And then he says, because I heard that, you know, you're sketchy.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, where are you even hearing that from? And he's like, he does kind of bring up the fact that, you told Chris one thing, you told me another thing, and we took notes and we compared them. And she says, because he, explains everything that he knows to her. And she says, okay, well, can I talk now? Can you let me talk? Because kind of how he did with, with Lydia, he just talks and he talks and he talks and he talks. He doesn't know when to shut up
Mm-hmm.
and not allow the other person to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, can I talk now? Because you've been talking for a long time. And he says, yeah, you can talk now. He's like, okay. So she says, okay, a lot of that is accurate for sure. Like she owns it. She says it's accurate. But she says, like, I'm not sketchy. Like, that's not me being sketchy. And I'm like, oh, well, it's kind of you being a little sketchy. Let's be real here. You're being a little sketchy here. But again, like, he talks over her as she's trying to, like, say her piece. And she's like, let me finish.
Yeah.
And I had to agree with her here because I'm like, you can't say to someone, let me finish my thought before you say something, and then turn around and do the exact same thing you told her not to do to you.
Yeah.
It's kind of rude. But
Yeah.
I did notice that he did that with Lydia and he did that with Johnny as well. And I'm like, you can't, I feel like he has, like, he talks over people.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like that. However, Johnny was being sketchy. Not incorrect in that. And actually, to kind of go, because I know you were talking about the whole thing with was it an Airbnb that he lives in and everything like that, and can he really afford this? Johnny was the one who said that his credit score was really bad and like he couldn't like afford much of anything.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Johnny did say this. So now
Yeah.
I'm wondering, was that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it is. We don't know. But yeah, I'll see what else I'm missing here because I feel like I may be missing some stuff here. But she says like, you are my number one. He was my number two because Izzy's also in a question on whether or not he actually was her number one. I don't understand what that means. What difference does that make? You're not with her. You're with Stacey. She's with Chris. What does it matter? But he questions on whether or not he was the only number one. For us, the viewer, you were her number one. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand this argument really.
I think maybe to prove his like sketchy argument or his sketchy
But
like
he can prove the sketchy argument without saying I was your number one or the only one.
yeah.
So he didn't have to even say any of that.
I mean, let's be real. That conversation was very chaotic.
Yes.
It escalated possibly very quickly, but it could be the edits.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, continue with your notes though. I want to hear what your notes say.
kind of towards the end of the conversation, he kind of was like, "Can I give you a piece of advice?" He was like, "No, I don't
Yeah.
want your advice." But he gives it anyways. But he
Hmm.
doesn't really give advice. It's another way for him to attack her and
Hmm.
say, "You're sketchy."
Hmm. Hmm.
Because the advice is don't be sketchy.
Yeah.
I don't know. And she gets up and she's like, "I'm not sketchy. You guys are sketchy." And then she walks off.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? First of all, I don't think they're sketchy. You're sketchy. But anyway, she kind of just runs to Chris and she's like, "He told me that I'm sketchy and that, like, basically I'm not, like, good enough for you."
Yeah. And then basically, I'm a piece of shit, and everyone thinks I'm a piece of shit. Like,
Yeah.
sis, where did you get that summary from? Like,
Well,
what did Lululand did you go to before getting to Chris?
I feel like, yeah, he never once told her she was a piece of shit. She clearly doesn't do summaries very well as a
Uh-uh.
lawyer.
No.
She
Like, I'm
just,
scared for her contract. Oh my gosh.
because she
But
just, like, went off. But I think
yeah.
in the grand scheme of things, if someone is calling you sketchy
Hmm.
and says everyone thinks you're sketchy because he did say that to her,
Hmm.
then then that's going to make me think, okay, well, then no one likes me here. No one thinks that I'm genuine. People think I am a piece of shit, I
Yeah.
guess. So she is kind of
But then just say like,
maybe,
oh, it made me feel like a piece of shit, or feels like everyone thinks I'm a piece of, like,
yeah,
there's
yeah,
words.
sure. But again, I think when you are in a heightened state of emotion, you're not going to
Yeah.
say all the words that you want to say.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yes, no one has blatantly said to her face or to anyone else that we can see that Johnny's a piece of shit. But
Yeah.
she's clearly saying to herself, people think I'm a piece of shit. It is
Yeah.
how she feels. She's just not saying those words.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I'm just anti Johnny, so like everything she does or
Oh, well,
says
yeah.
like itches me. But
She is
that whole
sketchy.
conversation, I hated it. I hated like the way Izzy was doing it. I was like,
Mhm.
this is terrible. Like you're getting nothing done. Like this is really what you want to sit down and talk about. Like,
I hated it from both
secondly,
sides. Yeah.
he has a tendency of being so damn vague.
Condescending.
I mean that
Condescending.
too.
Hmm.
Like how you gonna say, oh, like yeah, everyone thinks you're sketchy. Where like what's the receipts? Is he like tell her? Like, it's like, for example, like
Well, he
this
did come with
happened.
the receipts because that happened. And the thing is, it's like
Yeah,
when
only that though.
when she goes back to Chris and says, like, he told me that you guys talked and came to the agreement that I'm,
Only the whole like Chris and him.
yeah, Chris and Izzy, when they were still in the
Hmm.
pods and they were comparing notes, he doesn't say to her, okay, I never said that you were a piece of shit. And I never said, like, because there was something that Izzy said that, or she said that Izzy said that he never did say. Can't remember exactly what that was, but he's like, I didn't say all of those things, but yes, me and him did have a conversation and did realize that things weren't quite meshing, but he had already had that conversation with her in the pods. So maybe he just didn't want to rehash anything because he already did say to her, you're not telling me the same things that you're telling somebody else.
Hmm.
So yeah, in that instance, that is true. And she owned that. She said, that's accurate. I did say that.
Yeah.
But, you know, after this conversation that he has with Johnny, he kind of runs to Stacy and he's like, Stace, come
Oh,
here. And I'm like, what do you, and okay, the way he relayed this conversation with Johnny to
so
Stacy
bad.
was so fucking bad. He's like, she, is lying about me. And because again, what I will say that Stacey was correct here is, why are you rehashing this with her? You're not with her. It doesn't matter now. And he's like, because I just don't like people who lie. But you don't say what she lied about. You just say that she lied about you being sketchy, which she
Hmm.
just said in the moment because she was upset by what you just said. You didn't actually say to your fiance what actually happened, even though she's asking you, what did she say?
Yeah.
You're not
Like
actually telling her what she said.
if Johnny's summary was bad, Izzy's was like
Worse.
in the garbage.
Which
Like,
again, if you're going to be an insurance adjuster, you kind of need to have a little bit of that as well. And you don't have that either. So I don't think insurance is going to work for you either, sir.
just all in all terrible. And like the way he was so happy about like telling Stacy, like, oh, I like I forget the term he uses, but like paraphrasing here,
He
like I
basically
talk.
says to her, I'm so grateful that I picked you. That's
Yeah.
basically what he's saying. I'm so grateful that I picked you over Johnny because Johnny's messy and you're not. And
Ugh.
Stacy says in this moment, like, don't be appreciative of us because you're now seeing how things are with Johnny.
Hmm.
Like, don't put me in that. And he's like, well, I'm not. But you are. You literally
Yeah.
are.
That was messy.
So messy.
Like he must have been drunk.
I'm hoping he was drunk, but I don't think he really was that drunk.
Yeah.
I think he was pretty sober throughout that little situation. So I don't know. Oh, also what I didn't mention that I thought was kind of funny was when Johnny walked away from Izzy. She's like, I wish you the best. And he's like, I wish you the best. And it's like, fuck you. That was funny. Where she's just like, fuck you. I'm like, wow. Anyway, I thought it was funny. So then Uche shows up, Johnny come
Mm,
lately to the
mm.
party. And immediately of him walking in, he says, Lydia, can we talk?
Yeah.
And Lydia's like, do I have to? And he's like, well, no, you don't have to, but I
Yeah.
would like to. And she's like, okay, fine. So she goes and they go into a separate section and they talk.
Also, I know Homegirl was so giddy to finally talk to him.
Oh,
Just
100% she
I
is.
just know it. I know that line. Oh, do I have to? Like you are trying your best to have the upper hand, sis. You want to run into that room. I could tell. Anyways, continue.
So anyway, he to kind of not getting, we're going to get into the fun stuff of this conversation. He says to her, like, I feel like you knew I was going to be on this show. So we see this piggyback of what Aaliyah told him previously coming up here. And she says, why would I do that?
Hmm.
Because you're nuts. That's why you
Yeah.
would do that.
Yeah.
And then he kind of is going into when this breakup, the first breakup happened that he mentioned to Aaliyah previously, where they had an argument and she was lying to him. So I don't want to give this too much attention because this is fucking stupid. I don't know what the main issue is here, but the issue of her lying to him that made him upset is whatever they were arguing about. She
Hmm.
ended up figuring this out by, I guess, going through his stuff. Instead, she told him that she had intuition. So he's
Hmm.
mad about that because she should have just told him that she went through his things. This is what we're arguing about. Let me tell you something. As a woman, because this we'll find out why she was probably going through his stuff. It all wraps up into a nice little neat bow. She went through your shit, sir, because of her intuition. This is just, you're dispensing shit now. She didn't
Hmm.
go through your shit because she just wanted to. She had an intuition, so she went to look for evidence.
Hmm.
That's what we do. So he then goes into the fact that you were stalking women's Instagram stories and shows her the receipts. And I'm like, oh damn, my dude came with receipts. My
Hmm.
one thing is, why didn't you come with the receipt of the picture of the house where she says, I see you? I want to see that too. But as far as we know, I guess he deleted that. But he kind of says to her, you came to my home, sent me that text. And she's like, why would I do that? She's like, the Instagram thing, she says. Um, I don't really know how Instagram works, ma'am. That's besides the point. you went onto their Instagram stories and it
Yeah.
does show up who's viewed the stories.
Yeah.
So try again because you did do it clearly because here he is with the receipts.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that happened with all that. So she's like, why would I do any of that? Like, why would I do it? Because we've established you clearly were obsessed with him and
Mm-hmm.
you couldn't let it go.
Mm-hmm.
So then she kind of starts to get up and she kind of wants to leave.
Mm-hmm.
But she feels like this isn't a productive conversation and she wants to leave. And he's like, no, like sit here and talk with me. And she's looking for Milton. Then Milton comes in to save the day, I guess. He wasn't there like, when Uche showed up. He said that he was using the bathroom or something. But he comes in and he plops himself down and he's like, what's going on? What are you guys talking about? And Uche is kind of like, Milton, I do want to talk to you, but do you mind if I just finish this conversation with Lydia? Just the two of us right now? And he's like, sure, yeah, you can, but we have somewhere to go in like 10 minutes. I don't know if I believed him.
No.
I didn't believe him.
It seems like he like maybe had wrote something on his phone and then like kind of showed it to Lydia.
Maybe.
Um, but clearly she was like, "No, it's okay."
Yeah, I think, I wonder if these two like had a conversation and said, like, listen, if he shows up and he's talking to me and it's heated, like, this is what you say to get
Mm-hmm.
us out of it. Um, but anyway, I didn't believe him for 1 second. But she's like, okay, that's fine. That's fine. I'll make this quick. And he gets up, he leaves, and they continue um, the conversation. So then we go to when he mentions the messages with from these women on Instagram who saw her looking at their stories. And as mentioned before, he comes with the proof. So it's how I kind of believe him. Obviously, I can believe physical proof. And for her, she starts acting like, well, but why would I do that? I don't understand Instagram. That's what I'm like, but that's besides the point. You did it.
Yeah.
So why would you do that? Unless you're stalking him, I guess. And that's the only thing I can think of saying. But it makes me think like if he's saying this, then the rest of what he's saying has to have some sort of truth to it. Because why would he be right about one thing but then incorrect about others?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't make any sense to me. She's not really a reliable narrator, I think.
Like even her confessional about um Uche bringing screenshots and showing her like, and then she was still denying it or refusing to believe it or something. And then in her confessional, she's just like, "Oh, and he brought screenshots. Like that's supposed to mean something." And
It
I'm like,
does mean something.
"It means a lot. It means
It does
everything."
mean
I
something.
mean,
It does mean something.
yeah. I found that so funny. I'm like, this girl is so delulu.
Like, and that's the thing. And so for her, then she says, "Listen, I have things that I can say. Do you want me to start saying things?" And I'm
Oh
like, "Yes, Lydia,
yeah.
I do. I do want you to
Mm-hmm.
start saying things
Mm-hmm.
because, okay, a rational woman doesn't just start going through their man's things or stalking people's Instagrams for no reason. So
Mm-hmm.
I started thinking, did he cheat on her? Because I know for me, when I went through that and I got cheated on, that's what I started doing. I did everything that he was describing she was doing. I almost drove, like not drove by, but I almost went to my man's, not my current guy, my ex. I almost went to his house to try and see if I could see something because I was suspicious that he was cheating. And spoiler alert, he was.
Yeah.
And I was like clocking things in his house that didn't make sense to me. That's how I was able to find out the girl he was sleeping with behind my back's name because I found a card that she left for him on his birthday. Found that. I started stalking his Facebook, other things that I knew he was on to try and get my information. That's what a woman does because we're
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure something out. So everything he was describing, I'm like, so is she just doing this for no reason? Or, you know, is something going on? So when she started saying, like, I can say things too, I'm like, yes, Lydia, say it. I want to hear it. Then she says he cheated on her, but then like had the nerve to judge Aaliyah for something that had nothing to do with him. So I said, and there it is. And I 100% believe that this man cheated on her. 100% believe it. Because this guy wants to act. This is the kind of guy, and this is what I mean about narcissists. It's okay for you to do something, but as soon as somebody else does something, it's a fucking problem. So you cheated on Lydia, and that was only a few years ago, from what we understand here, from based on the timeline, maybe 2 years, no different than Aaliyah.
I think it
And
was closer
hmm?
than I think it was closer than when Aaliyah did it.
Well, because we're confused on the timeline. He said
Yeah.
that they started dating sometime in 2020, and that they had only maybe broken up like maybe a year in or something. We're confused on that, but they did
Mm-hmm.
have sex 3 months prior to the show,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna guess that the show was probably filmed in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably about the same amount of time.
Yeah.
And you wanted to judge Aaliyah for doing the same thing that you are accused of doing to Lydia. And I believe her because it still doesn't make sense to me because I also still believe him and Aaliyah that she knew he was going to be on the show. So that's also very confusing to me. I think they're both a little something's going on there because I don't understand why you would end up on this show and potentially know that someone you know is on the show before you even enter the pods. So there's something going on here, but maybe they discussed getting back together, and that's why she slept with the man. And then he just turned around and didn't actually follow through. Maybe she got feelings, maybe she got jealous. I don't know. So that's confusing. But besides all of that, sir, you are a hypocrite. Don't judge other people for something you did.
This is where I'm excited for the reunion because I'm like, there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of unanswered questions and like, she just dropped the bomb and then she dipped and then
Mm-hmm.
like it just like got glossed over everything else. And I'm like, no, I need the answers because like you said, like honestly, I don't know who to believe. Like, because she was also saying like, oh, like don't act like I just randomly came to your house. Like we were talking and I was happened to be in the area. So I'm like, okay, so there's like different storylines has to what happened, different narratives, things thrown around. Um, so I was excited for the reunion, but we don't even have to wait for the reunion because Uche answered the question
Oh, he did
on his
he?
Instagram. Yes.
Okay.
So someone asked, did you cheat on Lydia? And his answer, obviously we take it with a grain of salt,
Mm.
is no. Lydia and I were never together. We dated for a
Ugh.
short time and we were both seeing other people. In the casting process, we were asked to disclose who our most recent relationships were with. If she believed we were in one, she would have disclosed my name or photo and the producers wouldn't have allowed both of us on the show. So that's his reasoning as to like it wasn't serious, like we weren't exclusive
But
and
wait.
we weren't exclusive. And if she did think we were exclusive, she would have told the
Mm,
producers.
mm-mm. That doesn't make any sense because you're assuming you're her most recent relationship. No one said you were her most recent relationship. She never said that. She
Yeah.
said that you were her ex, and that's that. That does
But he
not
says it with plural, like most recent relationships.
relationships.
And if
But
like again, we're also
but
very
what's that
unsure with the
timeline?
timeline. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
exactly like what equates the most recent relationships? Is that in the last year? Is that in the last couple of years? That doesn't make any sense. But maybe but again, he's
Yeah, we don't know
assuming.
when the casting is. That's where I'm like, okay, the reunion needs to come up and they need to like air the
Yeah,
like air the timeline.
I think that does depend on when casting happens. But the thing is like, that's, and I don't know if I fully believe him only because, like, in terms of that's just the question that they ask, because recent relationships, we're assuming romantic, but it can't just be romantic because, I mean, if you are a human and you have, had, sex with people that are not romantic, you also have to include those. Like, I don't understand where the line, like where the line starts and like, I don't know. But besides that, he's assuming she didn't know that he was there. I think wholeheartedly she knew he was going to be there. And the way to get past that question is to say, I don't know who he is. I'm gonna act like I don't know who he is and that he wasn't my last relationship. He's assuming that she didn't know that. She knew. I'm sorry. You can't change my mind. This woman knew that he was going to be on the show, and that's why she applied. But yeah, you can walk around that. And then in terms of, you guys were not together, that's not what you said on the show. You admitted that you admitted to Aaliyah that you guys were together. You broke up with her. So that means you were in a relationship to break up with somebody. Then you got back together and you stayed with her. And then you broke up with her again. That again means you were in a relationship with somebody. So don't bullshit me over here trying to tell me that you were in a relationship or this was like what were you Ross and Rachel? We were on a break. I'm confused. I don't believe
Yeah.
him.
I mean, I don't believe either of them, and I like literally genuinely hated that entire conversation between them two because it went nowhere
It went
and it
nowhere.
was
That's
so
yeah.
pointless.
I agree. But I think the problem is that I think Lydia can get heated and probably knew she was getting caught into a lie and probably did not want to have the conversation with him because she knew her shit was going to be coming out.
Yeah.
But that being said, if this man did cheat on you, then let the shit fly. Like I don't understand because again, I think the reason my girl went and drove by your house is to see if there's someone at your house. I think the reason she was on Instagram
Yeah,
peeking
but
on
then why
people.
would you text a man saying you're there? Like, why are you airing? Like, why are you disclosing?
That's true.
Like,
That's true.
it literally, that's what I'm saying. Like, this whole conversation was so pointless and it made no sense. Like, you're sprinkling some drama in what you're not even disclosing. And like, the whole point of the conversation was just to like kind of confirm whether or not she did know he was coming. Like, did you snoop? Like, did you figure that out while you're snooping?
Yeah,
But
she knew.
we didn't even get to the heart of what this conversation was meant to be because of his flawed antics of getting there.
Yeah.
He's obviously riling her up and she's not going to answer. Like, you should have like slowly got to the point and then bring this up. Like, oh, that theory is out there because of this, because of that, because of the screenshots and because of this. Like, don't start with that. I just found like it was such a ugly and immature conversation for the both of them. I
Mhm.
just hated all the conversations that happened that day because there was no strategy.
There
There,
wasn't. I mean, and these were supposed to be conversations. I feel like we could have had something, some sort of like, I don't
yeah.
know what would have come out of the Izzy and Johnny conversation, really,
Hmm.
because, it is what it is there. But I also didn't expect him to go in on her the way that he did. Like, we're not used to having these types of conversations. We're used to these conversations that these people have with the other people they kind of connected with to create more drama for the couples. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we seen like the Shane and Shayna conversation where that grew some more drama between him and who's he with? Natalie? I can't remember her name, but that created that drama. We had the Micah and Kwame conversation that created more drama between him and Chelsea. We need those types of conversations, and we didn't get any of those.
Yeah.
And there could have been so much potential between the conversation with Uche and Lydia because they have that history already. These are
Yeah.
two people who only had sex with each other 3 months ago and dated each other. There's already that drama there and that backstory there that this could have been something good. And it wasn't.
Nope.
And I don't think his conversation with Milton is going to be any better because, yeah, we see that they're going to have a conversation at the end of the episode, but
Yeah.
that's where it ends. And I don't think it's going to be any better because I think two things here. I think he's going to defend Lydia, obviously, as one really should, but he's going to defend Lydia. And number two, I don't think Milton has the maturity to have these conversations with somebody like Uche. He can barely have the maturity level to have conversations with Lydia. So I don't know how it's going to go, but I don't think it's going to go well. It's going to be this person who, let's face it, he is intelligent. He can present himself fairly well in most cases, and he can articulate himself well. And it's not to take away from Milton because he is also intelligent, but he's also 24 years old. And you can tell he's 24 years old. So
I think I think he might be able to handle it well. I mean, I
we'll
was iffy
see.
with when he like walked in with Uche and Lydia, but then I do believe he knows how to present himself well in with older people or with
Mm,
higher authority like Uche in a sense, like because
maybe,
obviously he comes very authoritative because of his workplace. I think, I think he might come off more professional in that conversation. Who knows?
maybe.
Um,
I just
but yeah.
think like when I see, and I partially put this on Lydia. I think she gets off on the fact that he's younger than her. I call her Jessica 2.0 at this point because she constantly has to talk about his age, the way
Hmm.
Jessica did in the first season with that dude whose name I can't
Hmm.
remember. Um, but I think I just kind of always go back to when Lydia is having this conversation with him about Uche back in the pods and how he's just, there's a way to know that you're processing, and I can understand you're processing, but the man clear out shut down. And um, I, I don't know. I don't know if I could handle something like that if someone that I'm with just completely shuts down because you have to know how to talk about things.
Hmm.
So maybe, yes, he'll be different with Uche because that is not Lydia. It's not someone that he's too concerned with and too concerned about in the same way as
Right.
Lydia. So maybe
Hmm.
he'll handle it better, but we'll see. We'll see. But I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I still don't think he'll be very constructive either way.
Hmm.
But anyway, I think that's it. That's it for episode 7. So, as I don't know if I don't think I've mentioned, I didn't mention in the beginning of the episode because I did my intro separate from this that you'll get we'll be doing the last batch of episodes, the last episode from the batch that we got on Friday. We'll be doing that together again as well. But yeah, that's it. Do you have any other thoughts?
No,
No.
I literally, I don't. I just need more drama. Like I need more context because
Yeah.
there's only two couples.
That's
Like,
the part that I feel like production really failed on. We could
yeah.
have added, that we know that they have more couples
Hmm.
that get together in
Yeah.
this. So you're really trying to tell me, okay, we started with 3, which is already a low number. than what we normally get. We usually get 5, I think. And we already start with a really low number. Then we don't even get one of those couples making it past Cancun. So now we're down to 2.
Yeah.
It's not enough. And let's be very real here. No one gives a flying fuck about wedding dress shopping or tux shopping. No one cares. It's going to be so fucking boring. But I did hear that there's supposed to be some drama with that. I don't know. So that'll be a first. But honestly, if people want to watch people picking out dresses, they just watch Say Yes to the Dress.
Yeah.
I don't particularly like watching that. So it's going to be slow and dead unless there really is drama.
I
But
mean,
it's saying
we don't even get to see the dress they say yes to. It's always
it
different.
hasn't happened yet.
No, but like I'm saying, like even in the previous seasons,
Mhm.
it's like whatever they say yes to.
It's always a
And
different dress.
yeah,
I know. I
like
never noticed it before until last season when listening to Reality Gaze and they were covering it. And
mhm,
they made that mention of they're always a different dress. I'm like, oh my God, you're right. It always is a different dress. Like I
yeah,
never noticed. And I'm like, why do that? At least like even with again, I compare this with Married at First Sight because that is the same people who do this show. The dress they pick is a dress we see. Like I don't understand why it's different here. But yeah, even Married at First Sight, I hate watching that too.
mhm,
And I don't care. So, and then when we only have 2 couples, you know they're going to drag it out. It's like they kind of
dear
dragged
God,
out the meetings with the parents and whatever.
yeah,
It was dragged out because we only have 2 couples.
mhm.
So, anyway, we'll see. Hopefully it picks up. And even the weddings, that's going to get dragged out because there's only 2 couples.
Yeah.
God.
If there like, there's no way that there could be a cliffhanger, but they probably will make it happen.
Oh, they're going to have a cliffhanger. Wait, no, wait. It's episode 10 is the reunion, I think.
Yeah, and this is episode 7.
Yeah. So we have 8, 9.
Yeah,
So
but
then,
I know we don't know who got married yet.
oh,
So
you don't. Oh, so we don't know yet.
yeah,
Also, maybe the reunion is going to get released separately because we usually see it, but maybe it's like I usually see in the episode list, but I didn't actually see anything past 10. But maybe it's going to sneak up after. We'll see. Or maybe they're going to try and do a live one again, which I don't think you should try to do that again. I didn't watch during the live, because I was watching 90 Day Fiance, so I wasn't actually watching the live last season. But I heard, everyone heard. I'm like, what's happening? And then I remember again going back to Reality Gaze here. They were going to cover it live too. They were going to do a YouTube live covering it live, and then they were going to do like a separate episode after. So I didn't actually watch that either, but I watched that after the fact. And you kind of see them sitting there being like, what's happening? Why is it coming on? What's going on? And it was a complete disaster. So hopefully they don't do that again, but I wouldn't be surprised if they tried. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried.
but the thing is, it's not even live. It was still pre-recorded.
No, but it was supposed to be live. But remember, they had an issue with the live because people crashed Netflix.
Yeah, so then what? They just recorded it and then
They just
aired it
recorded it.
after.
Yeah, they recorded it.
Yeah, so
So
pointless.
yeah, but that's what they ended up doing because it just didn't work. But that wasn't the intent. The intent was for it to be live. And
Yeah.
it's not how it turned out. The only thing that I guess would have been pre-recorded was her conversation with Jackie and Josh because they were cowards and weren't there. But that's the only thing that was meant to be pre-recorded. The actual reunion wasn't supposed to be. But that's why they're like, okay, hang tight with us. We're going to record this and we're going to release it out to you guys as soon as possible. That's, it
Okay.
came out the next day.
Yeah.
Nah, pointless. They should never do it again, but we'll see. So if you like what you heard, please share Reality Tea times 2 with everyone in your life. That's going to help with our growth. And we really want to grow this podcast. Another way you can grow it is by also rating and reviewing us on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. The links to those podcast links to the Spotify and Apple Podcasts will be in the show notes. You can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps, but if there's an app that you don't see us on, that you want to see us on, please let me know and I can get that up on that podcast app. If you are an avid YouTube user, you can listen to this podcast on YouTube by going to Reality Tea times 2. If you want to connect with us, you can do so by connecting with us on either Facebook at Reality Tea times 2 or Instagram and Threads at Reality Tea times 2 podcast. You can also email us. We would love to hear from you. If you want to guest on the podcast at some point, whether we talk about your favorite show or just get to know each other, you can email us at realitytimes2@hotmail.com and you can make that request and we can talk and we can figure that out. So you can email us at that email. We have a new website where you can get links to everything. You can get links to our Facebook page, Instagram page, Threads, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everything your heart's desire, as well as we do now have a Discord, so you can follow us and talk to us on the Discord app. You can get all of that information at the website, and the website is www.solo.to/reality times 2. I also have a new podcast with my friend Mikkel called Next Take Podcast, and you can either listen to us at YouTube at the link that's going to be in the show notes. I believe that is Next Take Podcast. And you can also go to our website. There you can have all the links to all of our social medias, email, everything. Our episodes as well will be at the website, which is www.solo.to/next take podcast. All of the information, everything that I have just said, will be in our show notes. Well, that's it for now, guys. Thanks. Bye.